This guy. Talk about premature. This guy.
I haven't said anything.
No, well, you haven't done anything yet either.
Live from New York.
So much better.
It's the show that is back from the dead. It's First Things First today. Brew, are you surprised Denver won both games? You must be. Okay, sure.
I wasn't surprised, Wildes.
Don't do it.
I was thunderstruck, aghast. I was aghast. All right. Now let me say this. You didn't know that was coming. Let me shout out the Nuggets, because they did show heart of a champion.
That's correct.
They not only had to fight through the mental anguish and probably surprise on their part of being down 0-2 at home or going on the road, but what looked like, Nick, a physical disadvantage, right? It looked like Minnesota's athleticism just overwhelmed them.
Yeah.
All right, so credit to them for fighting through that. And I got to give them credit. The first two games, they shot 40% from the floor. We had Antonio Daniels, NBA champion, on our radio show, The Odd Couple.
7 to
10 Eastern. He said last week, and I tended to agree, he said, I don't see a lot of adjustments that they can make, because it looked like they were just being overwhelmed athletically.
Strong take.
Obviously, well, they came out and made some adjustments, shot 55%.
Yeah, making all the shots is a great
That
adjustment.
helps.
They were
that
open,
helps.
too.
It's a great, no, I agree.
And I got to give Jamal Murray credit, too, because he, number one, didn't play well in the first two games and has been struggling in the playoffs to a large degree. Obviously, some game winners outside of that's been struggling. And he has the calf injury that looks like it's pretty good now. And, of course, the controversy that he deserved. And you wonder, will Minnesota fans, if they lose this series, say, he shouldn't have even been playing with Game 3. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
So dangerous.
Well, my point is,
Back was on the floor. He shouldn't be
suspended. Have been playing. But that's
you
I'm not
agreed
gonna,
with that ticking time bomb out there. You agreed with that.
Towel was near the baseline.
I'm not going to use that, but I'm just saying credit to him for he stepped up big. And you're being guarded by Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels, and at times Mike Conley.
And he has time for the media after he steps up, which is nice as well.
Yeah, when he steps up, he loves to talk.
Yeah.
So I want to shout them out. I will say this, Game 3, you wonder the T-Wolves, young superstar that's your best player. Your veterans haven't really, don't have a ton of experience going deep in the playoffs. They looked like they were probably feeling themselves. They had gone 6-0 through a legendary, even if those guys aren't as great now, legendary team in Phoenix as far as Durant and Booker, and now the defending champions on their floor. But Game 4, there's no such excuse. They were ready, they were alert, and they just got beat. So this is a great series now.
That was fantastic analysis. And you spoke to the mental anguish of being down 0-2. I thought, and Michael Malone spoke to the character of the team, that they're champions. I thought there was a big sort of remember who we are, because Jamal was, out of character. He's supposed to be super clutch, and he felt pressure and he was throwing stuff. And Michael Malone showed in that video, was like, not only are we champions, we're also gentlemen.
Okay.
You know what they did? Oh, it's a little bit.
It's not going to be a gentleman's sweep.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense.
Why not?
Because it'll be 6 or 7
Right,
games.
it doesn't even make sense.
What about starting on Friday? Well, gentleman doesn't argue, but regardless. Dusty, if you could come out, I just want to tell you what happened.
Oh, no,
Dust?
You know what happened?
Bro.
Oh, thanks, Dust.
Oh, no.
Denver went into Minnesota. They knocked on the door and said, excuse us, you might have some gentlemen join you here? Do you mind if we come into your house and put our feet up? I'm not going to go towards you. That's kind of rude.
Are
you go
you
this
that
way.
limber? Oh,
wow. Yeah,
Nice
white
socks.
limber. Put your feet up.
What a doofus.
Go make
Jordans
yourself a
was
sandwich. Ask for the Wi-Fi password. Then change it. Change it to gentleman.
This doesn't make sense.
You should have made it
Why
a
not?
glass of
Because
wine.
it's not a
And a charcuterie.
Because it doesn't. But
Yeah,
it also just
charcuterie and a glass of
narratively
wine.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know you would think that.
Okay, go ahead.
It's grown beyond that. So here's how Denver played in the first two games. Not too well. You look at the full screen. And then the last two games, ooh.
Yeah, they played.
51 points from the dynamic duo, shooting over 50% from the field. 3-pointers still down. We still have more meat on the bone there. And then, of course, it's the end of the second half where I tried to FaceTime you since that's a famous time you like to FaceTime me.
Not.
Well, my FaceTime's not working. Then Anthony Edwards, Michael Jordan of our era, I guess, he turns the ball over. And then let's try this. Let's try to get a quick 2. Oh, it doesn't work. And then right from front of Kevin Harlan, bang. So not only did that lose them the game, obviously, the question to you is this, Nick, or you can answer this one. I'm a gentleman. Do what you like.
This little sequence?
Well, this may have cost them.
I mean, it might have cost them the game. It might have cost them the game. I mean, it's 8-0 run in 20 seconds. They lose by 8. But go ahead. Is that the question?
I thought it was larger than that. I think that will be the defining moment of this series.
Okay. But here's the thing. It is very, very difficult. And I don't mean to be rude, but to take either of your analysis of this series seriously.
How dare you?
Because if you guys, does the audience remember
at full screens
what my pick for the series was?
No.
You didn't make a
exactly.
pick.
Because
don't you have Denver in the finals?
Hold on.
Luka in the finals?
No, I have Luka in the finals. It was like a late night election too close to call. And you, on the other hand, were all cocksure that Denver was going to not be tested and then in shambles. You had your feet up on the table and saying it was over and now it's a good series. Meanwhile, it has been exactly what I thought it would be. A series that's going to go 7 and going to come down to the fourth quarter of that game 7. Wow. We'll see who wins it.
We don't know what you thought.
Right, because I still don't know. It's still too close to call. I just know that you right now are way too confident.
I disagree.
Wait, and for twofold. One is your gentleman stuff, which does not make sense.
Starting on Friday.
So you have them losing again?
Maybe.
So
again, it doesn't write off.
it just doesn't make sense. But I don't even.
A gentleman doesn't act like the law. You accept it.
A gentleman doesn't argue, so maybe you're right.
I don't think we should embrace this gentleman character a second further. But the other thing is, your tweet this morning also. Can we show it to the audience, Brew? Because you missed it. He's, I think, talking to you.
I'm talking to a lot of people.
But who are those people that promised a sweep?
Oh, a gentleman never names names.
He can't be talking about me. I don't follow.
No, but you also didn't promise a sweep. So I would like to do one thing, though, which is sincerely and earnestly give Jokic credit for last night. Because Game 3 didn't shock me. Because there is a natural inclination where one team is playing for its absolute life, and the other team feels like it's not only that you're up 2-0, you're up 2-0 and you've stolen 2 road games. You're going to let down the intensity. That wasn't shocking.
That's true.
Game 4, while the end of the first half was critical, no doubt about it, the difference in that game among some disappointing performances by some Minnesota guys we'll get to was Jokic said, nah, not on my watch. And that is the type of thing I was talking about on Thursday that I wanted to see. That when we were talking about MVPs getting swept in the year they win MVP, MVPs going out early in the postseason meekly. It's not supposed to happen. And unfortunately, it's happened to Jokic a couple times already in his career that I wanted to see some resistance. And his form of resistance was he played a game that I think is not the style of game he likes to play, which is I'm going to take a bunch of shots.
Right, he
looked to score, and he was outstanding. Now, I am not as certain as you are, Wildes, because I don't know that Aaron Gordon's going to keep shooting 70, 60 splits. I don't know that he is.
Sure.
And there's no one to me on the on the Timberwolves right now that's playing out of their mind in that.
How many points did Anthony Edwards have
regard?
last
Well, I think
night?
Anthony Edwards can keep up this level that he's done for the series. I think he can average around 35 a game. I think he can. Just like I think Jokic can keep up what he's doing. And so I think this is a really good close series, and I think that Jokic last night, even if they lose the series, prevented this from being an embarrassing moment. Had they gotten swept, that's an embarrassing moment. You get swept by a 22-year-old when you're the defending champs in round 2. There's no scenario now where this is like a real black mark on
But I
Jokic.
do think if they lose, I mean, I hear you, obviously, you don't want to get swept. But if they lose, it's still, like, it's going to look bad for Denver.
Well, I've got great news for you. Game 5, Wolves back in Denver tomorrow as 4.5-point underdogs. Brew, remember when I said 29 teams have gone down 0-2 at home?
Yeah.
And then 5 came back to win the series? Well, here's how the next chapter of that graphic. The 5 teams both came back and tied the series 2-2. 6 teams have done it in total.
Of course.
One of the teams has only one has lost. So now that we're in this scenario, I'm looking at 6 of the last 7 teams are going to end up winning the series. So are you giving up on, and this is what I was looking for earlier in the show, your Wolves?
Well, look, there's not as much bass in my voice.
Fair.
But absolutely not. This is actually what I predicted. I said Wolves in 7, right?
Yeah.
And in a 7-game series, there are times when you think one team's got control, and there are times you think the other team's got control. So, I mean, look, I will, objectively speaking, you have to admit Denver has control right now. They literally have home court advantage back, right?
Yep.
They do have the momentum, but let's be honest, this series has gone the exact opposite of what anybody would expect. But all teams have won on the road. And so let's see what happens. Honestly, my belief is Denver will go up 3-2, and then Minnesota will notch it at 3-3, and then they'll go to a game 7 in Denver, and we'll see what happens.
Right.
2 keys quickly, Nick. The 2, I mean, obviously Jokic and Ant, you can't overstate their value. They're generally going to play well. The keys, and you mentioned Gordon, and that's huge because he's shooting well from 3. He's pulling Gobert away from the basket, which hurts their defense. But Jamal Murray and Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
It really boils down. Like, if Jamal is Jamal, they are awfully hard to beat.
But he's not going to be.
Well, and that's,
And
if
I
you
don't
can
think
guarantee that, then it's going to be trouble. And if Cat is Cat.
Well, I don't know what that means.
You don't, well, he's up and down.
And so
you need him to play well.
So
go.
Jamal Murray, to me, they played Monday, then they played Friday. They had 3 full days off, and he looked like a different player. And then I didn't think yesterday he was not nearly as good to my eye test or the box score as he was Friday. That's not surprising to me. And again, I'm not taking away from him, but the 55-footer made what would have been a underwhelming box score look okay.
Yeah.
You know, and so in that
19 total.
It would have been 16.
Right, it would have been 16, and it would have been 40% shooting, and it would have been more like what we had been seeing from him in the postseason. And now you're every other day again. So I think that works against him. But to me, this is a referendum, and this is why the NBA playoffs are great. Because like I said after, I think, game 2 of round 1, when your team wins a game, it's like, how are they ever going to lose again? And when your team loses, it's like, do we have to blow the whole thing up? The 2 big men for the Minnesota Timberwolves, this is the biggest basketball week of their lives. So Rudy Gobert, here's what can't happen for Gobert. The Timberwolves lose in 6. And that the last game they won, which was also the best they've ever looked in the history of the franchise, was the game he wasn't there for.
Right.
For Gobert, he just desperately needs them at least win one more time with him out there. And then if they lose in 7, so be it. And then there's Karl Anthony Towns, former #1 pick of the draft, who was not good last year in the playoffs against this team, who this year, when it felt different the first 2 games, he was playing well and now has no shown, and yesterday was terrible. Yesterday. Those 2 guys, he will immediately be back in trade rumors if they lose in 6. He will, fair or not, he will be. And so I'm not writing off the Timberwolves at all because I don't think Aaron Gordon is going to keep this up. So I think that this is a very, very 55-45 type of series, and I think that's what we have through 4 games.
Who's got the 55?
Oh, I think Denver is
They have the advantage.
They have the advantage. But that
you guys are all with me.
Right, no, because here's the thing. Your statement, you have been talking about this team like they're the 2017 Warriors. That was not a 55-45.
I said no one's going to beat them in 7.
That it's inevitable. 55-45 is not inevitable. And but I do think the Nuggets have the advantage. And besides, I'd rather Luka knock him out anyway. But set that aside. I think you're just a little too confident.
Brew, is New York in trouble?
They are in trouble. It's not over, but they are facing an uphill climb. And let me credit, I don't know if Nick's going to do this, but let me give credit to the Pacers. Because I don't want to just make it seem like the Knicks are losing this series rather than the Pacers and it's tied. So nobody's winning it, but you know that the Pacers are playing well. They stunned me by the way they played in games 1 and 2. Like, they played those games really tough.
Who's the they in this?
The Pacers.
Okay, go ahead.
Call here or there, and maybe they at least split, if not get both of those games. So I thought the Knicks would win in 6 and have an easier time with Indiana. And then the last 2 games, of course, Indiana won. And Tyrese Halliburton, who we've been calling out, right? We've been like, look, you were a superstar 4 months ago. Now you're not even looking like a star. He has been the key, and he has been, with all due respect to Jalen Brunson, he has been the best point guard in this series. Now, maybe a lot of it's probably because of Brunson's injury, but the last 3 games, Halliburton has been terrific. He's been the engine that's driving them. But the Knicks, they're just running out of bodies. It's simply, your best player is playing on 1 foot. He's having trouble. Now they got Aaron Nesmith on him, which has been a good adjustment for Indiana. His length has given Brunson a little bit of trouble, especially in his diminished state. And how long could the Knicks count on Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo playing like stars? Like, that's what you're looking at. Hart, I think, is just running out of gas. You know, I mean, he's playing almost every minute of the first 3 games. And then the last game, he's got 12 points in the last 2 games. And DiVincenzo was averaging 30 through the first 3 games.
Playing overseas.
And then he fought.
Yeah.
Right. So he came back to earth in game 4 with all the – and look, here's the other thing. With OG Anunoby, they're 26-5. That's when their season turned around. Without him, they're 13-16.
Yeah. And what happened to him?
Hamstring.
Soft tissue injury, a little overuse.
Oh, come on.
What do you mean? Half the team's hurt, and I'm not allowed to point out that they are coached by the only person in the league that would do this.
He's been hurt the last few years, hasn't he?
He's had injuries.
He's consistently hurt.
I know, which is why you would maybe be a little more cautious. Josh Hart played 48 minutes, all 48 in back-to-back playoff games. The last person to do that, anybody know? I'll tell you. Year 2, Jimmy Butler. Any guess on who that coach was? Guys, every coach would love to play all your best players all the minutes. The other guys don't do it for a reason. Like, there is a reason that it is not. Why does Jokic ever go to the bench? Why does Jamal ever go to the bench? Anthony, you really think that Nickeil Alexander-Walker's better than Anthony Edwards? Then why are you putting him in for him? Because, and so I happen to think, by the way, that the key moment is OG. I disagree with you that over the breadth of the series, Tyrese has outplayed Jalen because game 1 was so lopsided. Tyrese had 6 points. And I think the Knicks can win this series. I think they can win in 7. But when you have this many injuries piling up, and even yesterday, down 35 in the 3rd, you haven't yet waved the white flag, I just think that there is a level of the ask is too much from these guys. It's too much.
Don't you think that it's a little live by the sword, die by the sword, that what makes this team super lovable is a never give up spirit, of Josh Hart crashing, of everyone playing better than how they normally play, and squeezing every last ounce of energy from the collective.
You also have to look at it the long run. Look, even if they win this series, they got another series in the Eastern Conference, to get through. So I don't know how long these guys are going to last.
People turning on Tibbs.
I'm not turning on him. I'm saying it's inevitable. I'm saying if you make the choice that I am going to play the 3 Villanova kids 98% of the eligible minutes, and I'm going to play our key offseason or midseason acquisition, the heaviest minutes of his career despite his injury history, and then your star guard has a messed up foot. The game he messed it up in, he played the entire second half. OG's out with a muscle injury. You've got Mitchell Robinson's done. You've got, it's going to happen.
Hartenstein,
I thought dislocated his shoulder and was like, I'm not going to tell Tibbs. He'll make me start shooting left-handed. Not do it. It's just.
I love Tibbs. He's getting the most out of them, but they can only play so much, especially in today's pace and space game.
And against this team.
Defend, right.
And the Pacers
this team
just
that plays
trying to run.
One of the fastest paces in the league.
I still think they can win this series, and then they're going to be ground to dust by the time they get to Boston.
Chiefs-Ravens open up the NFL season. Is Nick guaranteeing a Week 1 win? Well, shoot, even I'll do that.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.